Hey, Stephen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning, Steve?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. It's nice to see you. How's everything been
You
coming
as
along?
well. Pretty well, thank you. Just studying nonstop, basically. Um, Getting through. Definitely have a handful of questions today. Not related to specific questions on the test or specific sections necessarily. Just more advice along the way. But yeah, overall doing well. I feel I'm making pretty good progress. Um, every section I finish basically through the guide and program. So yeah, overall pretty well. Um, Obviously a little stressed just with everything else as far as law school applications and stuff. Trying to get the best chance of getting in with potentially scholarships and such. Um, but I have really pushed that off till after the LSAT. So I'm not doing anything else right now except for studying for the LSAT up until I take it in November.
Fantastic. Well, I agree. Delaying the application work until the bulk of it, at least until afterwards,
Yeah,
makes sense. You've got a couple of weeks anyway to wait for your score.
definitely.
So, of course, the
Definitely.
exam's coming up. We've got a couple of weeks remaining. What are your biggest questions or challenges you're facing right now?
Yeah, so I don't have challenging questions right now as far as the challenges I'm facing majorly, just because I'm still knee deep in the study process and I know I will pull so much out of that in the next couple of weeks. So, as far as the number one question, I guess I have for uh, focusing is timing and speed suggestions. How to get faster. Of course, I know that you have some really good notes and suggestions throughout the course for each type, logical game, logical reasoning, on suggesting how to get faster, of course, or such as, logical reasoning. You're very diligent on pointing out exactly which ones you should diagram and which ones definitely don't, because you're going to waste your time basically, or not waste your time, but you're going to suck up too much time by diagramming it. So like some of those fantastic information, just wanted to see if you had any general time saving suggestions.
It's a broad question. I mean, so much of what I say helps you get faster. You get faster by better understanding the material. So there's not just
Right.
one simple, quick 2 minute thing I could say on that. It's really,
Of
that's
course.
what all my resources are about. If you want to talk about a certain question type, maybe we could go a bit deeper on it.
Um, Thank you. Not for today, just because I'm still diving in. I know most of it is in the course already, if not all of it. And I think, the evening classes and student study sessions and stuff, I can pull specific question things out of that. So I feel good with that.
Well, then let me ask you one thing then. So,
Yeah.
what raises this question for you? Like, is there something that you feel you're not working as efficiently as you could be on a certain area where you feel that you're lagging or getting bogged down or that you're approaching inefficiently?
Um, I would say right now the biggest section would probably be reading comprehension. That is basically what I'm starting this week on the 1 month plan. So I know a lot of that probably will be in there once I dive in and learn much more on the reading comprehension side. But that is the one that I am struggling with on time the most right now.
Yeah. Did you attend any of my reading comp deep dives? I did one last week.
I didn't, I was not able to, but that was a question for you today is if you had a chance to get the recording ready to
Yep.
send out.
It's up there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Oh, it
so
is. Okay. I
it's
haven't
up
seen
there.
it
You
yet.
could, I've done a couple of them at this point already, and I'll do many more.
Perfect.
The idea there is basically we aim to take as long as we possibly can to analyze the passage. We aim to take as long as we possibly can. And so in those sessions, my goal is to typically spend the entire hour discussing only the passage, not even the questions.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
that's how you get faster, is by
Yes.
approaching slower. So upon
Makes
your review,
sense.
untimed, a deep dive means going paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence, word by word to break down and make sure you thoroughly understand everything in that passage. And then to make connections between different parts of the passage. LSAC loves using synonyms. Things like control F don't work for synonyms. That's not why they're doing that, but regardless, it makes it tougher for anyone to recognize the connections between things when you describe them in different ways for the same exact idea. So
Definitely.
the deep
Thank
dives will
you.
give you my ideas around getting more efficient in reading comp, but it starts with better understanding everything. And I'll highlight certain
Definitely.
things in context throughout.
Yeah, and I see that throughout already, and I definitely know that the work that have been doing over the last week and couple days in logical reasoning significantly is going to change the way that I look at reading comprehension as well. Just diligently looking, that's what I'm doing right now on the logical reasoning is, diving into really all of the details within to understand it, understand purpose of, whatever purpose of a certain sentence, making sure I'm diving into the conclusion, any sub-conclusion, all of the evidence. And I know that all of that is building blocks towards reading comprehension. So I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I definitely have a couple questions on the plan. So within the study plan, I have the 1 month study plan, a couple weeks left to go. And I was just curious, what master classes do you suggest prioritizing?
The ones on whichever topics give you the most trouble. I've got them for games, reasoning, and reading comp.
Gotcha.
And I also have them on review as well. So
Right.
they're all about whatever you need in the moment. If you're feeling good on games, I would focus more on the reading comp one, for example.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. As of right now, I'm probably 2 days behind in a sense on the 1 month study plan, just because I've been diving in further on things I don't understand, really doing a very intense review process where I might be on one question for 45 minutes or something, just to really understand every answer choice, why they're right, why they're wrong, all of those things. So that's why I'm slightly behind. So I do plan to definitely catch up, be pretty good on that. So I was just curious and have potentially a little extra time for additional studying. So I was just wondering, I know the master classes are kind of the thing to go. Would you suggest that if I had extra time, focusing pretty much on the master classes for the areas I'm struggling with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Still have difficulty. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. And then, so the other questions I really wanted to kind of dive into and just get your advice and feedback on is kind of general application process related to the LSAT mostly. So my top goal is to go to Georgetown. So I'm working my butt off to get my LSAT score up. My goal is a 170 or higher, ideally. So a few questions around that. One is, and I know there's no right or wrong answer necessarily, so just more of your advice. Do you believe if I don't hit 170, but let's just say I'm in the 165-ish range, maybe a little bit higher, would you believe, I'm gonna have to give you some background for this question actually. I've been out of undergrad for 13 years or whatever that is. I had a not very good GPA in undergrad, pretty poor, but I passed, so that's great. I'm not concerned about the addendums and all that stuff because I was working full-time the entire time of undergrad. I was promoted, I was at Starbucks, so I was promoted from barista to shift supervisor to assistant manager to store manager within those 4 years of undergrad. So I feel good with, writing that addendum and kind of piecing that together as not as an excuse, but as a understanding, as a window into what was going on in my life during that time. But with that, my career has been pretty massive in comparison to probably most of the competition, to where after I left Starbucks as a store manager, I opened up my own cheesecake company. So as a business owner with my family, moved on from there, became chief operating officer for a data company. So a lot of analytical stuff in there. And then moved on to a VP of operations type role. So I have high titles and things that I feel will be pretty good at showing my story and my abilities and everything that counteracts that undergrad GPA in a sense. But I know and believe that the only thing that will make a difference is my LSAT score for sure. So just wanted to give you that background before I ask this question. So if I got, 165, 167 or something like that, I plan to apply early decision to Georgetown. Would you suggest potentially applying with that 165 with that early decision? Or do you think it may be more beneficial just for the admissions piece, not scholarships at this time, to take another 2-month study and take the January one?
Great question. And first, I just want to say that your work experience is super impressive. They're going to love that.
Thank you.
A lot of folks will occasionally be like, they're like worried that being a cashier, being a barista, or something that may be perceived as just like a service position may not be as impressive. But on the contrary, it's actually super impressive because it shows dedication, dealing with difficult customers, dealing with difficult work environment, high stress, and you progressed and grew. You moved up the rungs of the ladder significantly. Right. They're going to love that. And that definitely will outweigh a low GPA to a large extent.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No, of course it's true. And I would definitely recommend highlighting that in some regard, either rec letter, personal statement, or potentially both.
Okay. Awesome.
Work it in somewhere for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of getting into a question I have very shortly, ish. But
to finish this one, finish this one. I generally don't love the idea of applying early decision because of scholarship money. You lose any scholarship negotiation leverage. Schools aren't going to be as likely to want to give it because they don't need to. So if that's not important to you, then yes, you could get a boost by admissions boost by applying early decision. To what extent? That's going to vary from school to school, cycle by cycle. To some extent, it could be a black box. There are websites like Law School Data that include user submitted information that could be useful to get a sense of what typically happens or what has been happening. But even this cycle, especially every cycle is different, and especially this cycle with COVID, really throwing everything for a loop. It's impossible to say how much this cycle relates to last cycle. A lot of things are not comparable.
Definitely.
Generally, I tend to lean towards retaking, and getting even a few points more makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to like November versus January.
Right.
So I might recommend applying in January instead with a higher score if you didn't get what you wanted for November.
Okay.
I would also look up on sites like LSAC has an official guide.lsac.org. You can input your GPA with different LSAT scores, and it'll show you how you stack up against admitted students or matriculating students from previous cycles.
Yes.
Of course, every cycle is different, but it's a rough ballpark, and that would not include the work experience. So important to take it with a grain of salt.
Awesome. Thank you. I definitely have dove into that a lot as I was, in the selection process for schools to really look at, with my GPA, projected LSAT score, just on the numbers, where would I be likely to get in, right? So that I could really get my safety schools together, my stretch schools, and my, ideal situation of going to Georgetown type thing. So thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Going on to the other ones. I know we only have 15. Are you good for a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Just want to respect your time.
Sure.
So, adding as exactly how you mentioned, really showing that story of my career path, climbing the ladder. You mentioned either having it in the lore or personal statement or both potentially. So on the lores specifically, and a little bit about my history. So I have, former president at the company who I was chief operating officer, trying to get that one, but there's challenges with that. Busy person, busy things going on. But the other people I was, in a sense, for that same company, a longtime client of retired IT professor who, I worked with him closely as his client for 4 years, basically. So he also knows a ton of my work ethic, a ton of my really everything that we did at that company. So he's one of the people. I also have a VP colleague at my just previous current job, who, she's, so in a sense, colleague, same level, VP of operations, VP of HR, basically organizational development. So those are my top three. Possibly not getting that president just because of a time constraint, potentially. So some of that work will be in the letters of recommendation. I am putting most of my story as far as my personal statement and stuff. Obviously, I haven't done that just yet. But most of that really is going to be on a personal story, like what I have done. Some of it will be in business and, what I've done with that and what has led me, in a sense, with my previous career to move into government and politics that I've been wanting to do for the last handful of years, basically, and really took this COVID as an opportunity, or COVID furlough as an opportunity to just do this only, basically. So most of the story, sorry for the long-winded statement, but most of the story on growth and business and that process, I was planning to put in the GPA addendum. But would you suggest that I highlight that much more in the personal statement?
Yes. A GPA addendum is typically better to keep it concise. It's not the place to tell a detail-filled story.
Gotcha.
Concise, matter of fact, to the point. Say, keep the story in your personal statement, and then also to whatever extent you can, trust that other elements will come out in the rec letters.
Makes sense. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at the holistic approach and making sure that everything I want to say is somewhere in the application, of course. Just trying to find the right place to put everything.
Yeah, well, two things I want to add, two different places you could potentially add stories. One would be an optional essay. A lot of schools will allow you to just submit an optional essay on anything else you want to share. And so if you want to tell a story and you don't have a good place to tell it and your personal statement is already full of other stuff, the optional essay could be a place to include it. And then a diversity statement. If you can frame it as a diversity statement, you may be able to tell a story there also. Okay,
awesome. Thank you. I have a plan for the diversity statement already, which I'm super excited for. Part of the LGBTQ community, and on the other side, my passion of politics, and I was campaigning and organizing for Elizabeth Warren's campaign before she unfortunately had to drop out. And I kind of pulled my diversity together with it in a sense, and dressed up as Elizabeth Warren as a drag queen, made this massive performance. And honestly, I got a total of probably 200 people out to see me and to get the word out, and actually, won that competition out over a total of probably 16 other professional drag queens. And this was my first time. So that's
fantastic.
That I feel is like the perfect diversity statement, because it's kind of pulling things together, but also showing that in a sense, I can do anything, because I did this, from not doing anything like this before, pulled it together and won this competition in a sense. So
wow, that's fantastic. I'm sure that'll be a great diversity statement.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I was chatting with one of the deans. I'm like, hey, just about it. We got had some really fantastic conversations, and she's been so great and open with me. And I'm like, I know a lot of law school admissions personnel want to see who this person is, right? In as much as possible, not necessarily just the full professional, this is your resume, this is your history. They want to see more of that. So, I even suggested to her, would it be helpful if I shared that video? And, she's like, it depends who it's going to. So I'd probably say no. I'm like, yeah, I feel that. Thank you, Steve.
Of course.
I have one final question, if for today. I had a bunch more, but don't want to take too much of time. So on the other side, so as I mentioned, Georgetown is my number one. Admission is most important to me over scholarship. But scholarship is important as well, of course. And for schools like Georgetown and other ones that do offer full scholarships, such as Georgetown's Public Interest Scholarship, there's 7 or 8 people who get that every year, and it's full scholarship. Obviously, I would expect that they're looking for pretty perfect candidates in the sense of high scores and or high GPA, and basically likelihood of extreme success in public policy law. But I just wanted to get your insights and suggestions as to, or advice as what else maybe they may specifically be looking for those types of scholarships and programs.
It's a great question. I actually couldn't tell you one specific thing. It's a bit of a black box.
Okay.
But if you make your application, I would say this is really where the numbers are not going to be as impactful beyond a certain, the numbers are not going to differentiate you on this. The numbers have to be a given. It's going to be making sure that the soft factors, the application essays and such, are the highest caliber possible. Okay. And so definitely, of course, I get the sense you're very diligent about this process and you'll do this anyway, but multiple revisions, multiple eyes looking at it. Of course, we're doing application essay workshops inside the course. Yes, and so feel free to submit your essays for any of these. I'm sure folks would love to workshop the diversity statement with you. I'm sure we could have a great discussion around that. Same for the personal statement too, and any other optional essays also. Thank you.
Yeah, as soon as I finish the LSAT, I'll be working on those and send those over.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, that wraps up my most important questions. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, Stephen. It was great connecting with you, and keep in touch, and I'll see you in class soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. See you tonight.
See you then.
Have a good one,
Bye.
Steve.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.